how are you? Hello there, and thanks for finding us. Welcome to episode 13 of the Kids Health series with Lawrence August. Hello, Lawrence. How are you? Good day.
Good morning, Heidi. Hello, episode 13, Lucky 13.
Lucky 13. I do like the number 13. I do get a lot of luck with it.
13
Yeah,
is a good number. It has a bad reputation. 13
it
is a
does.
great number. We're
But
going to
it's
prove that today. 13 is the best.
Yes. We have a whole dozen worth of episodes up on Rumble, on YouTube, on all our playlists, on all our social medias. Come find us. Come check it out. Again, Lawrence delivers this amazing information with fundamentals and roots. And his clients are kids. So jump on the train. And today we're going to do something a little bit different. I have some questions from mom groups that I'm in and from myself even. And I just thought I'd hit you left, right. We're just going to see
Let's do it.
what you come up with.
We need to start though with our high five. Heidi, come on. What is an episode without a junky high five?
Will this be the day?
Will this be the day? Let's do it.
Lucky 13.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, go. Hey! Oh,
Let's try it again.
1, 2, 3, go. Hey! That was our best
Oh, that's pretty good. Pretty good.
It's the little things, people.
It is little things. It's exciting. High fives are fun. High fives, by the way, are a proven way to kind of gamify life with your kids. Like a high five is a wonderful thing. Everybody loves a high five. So there's nothing wrong with a high five. Who doesn't like a high five?
It's true. It's like a little dopamine hit, isn't it? Hugs.
A great little
hugs.
high five.
Yeah.
It kind of it just enhances everything. High five. Hey, everybody out there, high five me right now. Feel it. Did you feel that?
Boom.
High 10. Double high five. Right? So questions.
I love
this
it.
Is fun.
How yes. Cool. We're just going to just hit you and see what happens. Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
And there is no particular order. Are you cool with that? If I just do random,
just make them random. I'll do my best. And if I don't have the answer, I'll be happy to make one up. I'm just, no. I'd be happy to lie to you. Let's get into it. If the more random, the better.
Awesome. So it's kind of like a little bit of a test run because I want to do this, but I also think it'd be great to do this live and get the communities hitting you up live themselves. So we'll see how that comes around. But basically, so let's just get into it. I have something that came up, and actually I'm super curious about this myself because the Giant and I are going to be doing our blood work soon. But is it necessary for kids to get blood work, and when do you do that, and when do you start that, and what do you look for when you're getting blood work done?
Yeah. Well, when we say necessary, I would say it's very different than adults. I am a big fan of regular annual and sometimes even quarterly, blood work for adults.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I come from a background working at an office where I was seeing 50 to 60 patients every week, and I saw a lot of value in the patients that were very diligent about checking. Now, again, that's going to be dependent person to person because, obviously if everything's great, it's kind of thumbs up, everything looks beautiful. Okay, we'll see you next year. But if there are some things that we're catching that we want to work on, then, hey, let's recheck in 3 months, 4 months so that we can see that the protocols we're doing are actually working. So there's context with that as far as frequency. Obviously, people are dealing with different things. Now, that goes into children. With children, one good thing to know early on would just be, basics like any kind of congenital issues, hereditary issues, basic blood type things that you should sort of get out of the way early. Because obviously, God forbid, if your child needed like a blood transfusion, kind of nice to know the blood group, blood type. If there's any family diseases or conditions that it's worth looking at, blood for that. Now, that being said, blood work would usually be, for a situation with a child, it would usually be needed upon some type of symptoms that are happening or a condition that's not being resolved in a typical way, right, then the doctor might want to look a little bit further. And that might include, kidneys, kidney functions. That's a big deal. Like if a child is just having a lot of issues and different UTIs and different urinary tract issues. That's what happened with me, and found out that I had congenital, I have birth defect in my kidneys, and
Boy,
they look a little bit further. But that being said, we don't need regular blood checking with children typically, unless there's something actually happening. The other thing that comes to mind are allergies. Now, typically, like the skin prick is sort of the more common. It's less expensive, but there are certain times that a blood test might be needed because maybe the child is dealing with a skin condition, eczema, psoriasis, where skin prick wouldn't really be a good situation for that. Antihistamines can interfere with the skin prick allergy test, so blood tests might be needed. Then that will look for antibodies against certain allergens. There are a lot of false positives in the world of allergies. Like you can rule something out. If there's not an antibody reaction, you can rule out. If there is antibody reactions, about half the time there could be false positives. So, in the world of allergies, it could be trickier. So yeah, those things come to mind. But typically with blood tests, to sum it up, it's kind of case to case. But I'm not the one saying you need to get your kid checked, the blood work.
Yeah.
And then last, I would say what we are seeing more nowadays, sadly, we are seeing issues with the lipids, with, unfavorable cholesterol ratios, high
with kids,
in children. So unfortunately, and that would usually be, we would want to look at that if in the case of overweight, obesity, you want to look a little bit further and actually just see the nature of what's going on.
Gotcha.
If there's sky high triglycerides already and very low HDL, we might want to do some things with the diet and, exercise, lifestyle. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of the blood work question. It's kind of case by case for kids.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess I get that. This one's interesting because I feel this as well. And I think I should paraphrase it, but it says, what's the best way to get an annual checkup without subscribing to a mainstream office? Kind of like we don't have our basic child doctor, but we go to an internal medicine or integrated medicine. Is that it? What are your thoughts there? What to look for when finding someone for your family for an all-over health check, but you don't want to go for that mainstream?
Yeah. I mean, I would honestly say there's not that big of a difference in terms of the diagnostic side between a quote unquote mainstream doctor and a naturopath, functional medicine doctor, integrative medicine.
I was wondering what the name, functional medicine.
These different sort of categories of practitioners. Well, number one, you want to get lined up with your own values. Like, what is it? What are your core values? And I can't decide that for anybody, on the show. But I would say that honestly, basic diagnostics, a mainstream doctor is not a bad thing. Now, because, they're trained very well actually at diagnostic. Now, where things kind of veer off is the approach, right? Like the actual treatment if you're finding something. And then in that case, that gets a little more complicated. I mean, I would actually, in today's day and age, the mom groups and the little networks and the local chit chat groups are great because I think referrals are one of the most important things in this whole world. Finding out people that have actually been going to these doctors. But yeah, it's not like a cut and dry thing. Like here's the, I'm not in the bit. I kind of try to stay away from recommending a particular doctor. I just say, find out what your values are and do some of your own research, which we did a whole episode on doing your own research. But Heidi, I think it's just that on the diagnostic side, honestly, mainstream practitioners are great. Okay. We're really good at finding things. It's just where the approach differs is, are we ready to just hop on medications? Are we, what's our course of action?
Right.
If you're more leaning toward, lifestyle, maybe like a naturopathic, well, local naturopath with a good
Right.
reputation is just someone to find. Like you've got your, information in hand, and now you're going to go kind of seek out specialized attention for that.
Okay.
So
I like what you said too in the mom groups, because that's what worked with us with the baby. When I had my
yeah,
kids as babies, were assigned to a pediatric, and the pressure and the force of the jabs, I walked away because I'm like, you are not listening or helping me. You just are meeting a quota. That was in my eyes. So then you go to the mom groups and you find
yeah, and just
another
know that,
approach.
like, you should never feel, I mean, in a situation, it's really important you brought that up, is that in a situation where, you feel like you're being shot down, like your questions aren't being heard, you don't feel right in a situation, that's a good sign. I mean, that use your
Yeah.
intuition with that. That's
You
that's
don't
really
have
the
to
answer. It's like you
stay.
don't have to, I think that people feel like a pull depending on how they're raised and their view of authority and
Yeah.
but don't be afraid to speak up. And a good doctor or healthcare professional should take all of your questions in a very serious way. If you ever felt like they're, doing the whole gaslighting thing, then you should get out of there and find, it's not that we want to find somebody that just agrees with everything, but,
Yeah.
there should be a respect. There should
Yeah.
be a healthy respect and good communication. And then, you've got someone. And all that is really just found out through chatting with other moms.
Yeah. I
Or
agree.
dads, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But mostly
Yeah.
moms, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the guardians. Okay, cool. Thank you for that.
yeah.
I'm cutting right into, well, it's summertime. Any summer health hacks? I just actually had this conversation with someone because, but here's the question. Any hints for summer vitamin or supplement needs? What do like depletion? What are we most
Yeah,
depletion in? And I was thinking of
um,
hydration, and the hydration
yeah.
sticks, or
There's
but do you
there's
see it?
not, like, on the health side, there's not, like, particular, in fact, summer's a great time. You're getting sun, so vitamin D. Really, it's the time of year that, getting outside, getting that vitamin D. There's not really um huge differences between summer and other parts of the year in terms of what you would need. Now, with the hot heat and the hydration, yeah, like electrolytes could matter. They
Mhm.
really only come into play with some pretty strenuous activity, a lot of sweating. Something like coconut water is a natural electrolyte drink, but those
Okay.
little, those little packets, those electrolyte sticks,
Yeah.
LMNT, there's one, shout them out, but
Yeah,
those
I
could,
take I like those.
yeah,
What do you Okay.
those are great. Those can be
Okay.
helpful, but it's not like needed to be slamming that if you're not, you know, um, out in the high heat and really sweating a ton. I would say a health hack for summer, and I just posted about it. That's why it's on my mind. Structure. This is a really important one because, especially if they're used to structure during the school year,
Oh,
whether they're
yeah.
homeschooled or not,
Yeah.
summertime, it's a really important thing to try to maintain some structure.
Oh, this
It's
goes to the
it's
next
not
okay.
only just a good kind of health practice, right? But outdoor activities are real important, obviously, for summer. But we also know mental health structure is really important for children. And so it seems like, oh, they're having more fun when it's kind of loosey goosey, but they really do like, um, as crazy as it sounds, routine can be a great thing. It doesn't have to be like your day is regimented to the minute, but
Mhm.
have a routine morning, a midday, and evening. Like, get some rhythm going. It'll be really, really helpful because it's helpful with that transition back into the school year in the fall. So
I needed to
a
hear this,
little bit of a
Lawrence.
bonus answer, but a super important one. And you can look on
Yeah,
my Instagram about that post there. You'll find it about summertime and routines. Really,
there
really
you
good
go.
information on there. Yeah, read the
That answer
caption.
kinda crossed out some other things, but
Oh,
on
okay.
that, because I needed to hear that too, because I do get loosey-goosey, and I'm like, "Woo!"
Yeah, I mean,
But it
look,
screws
it's
us
time.
up.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
not like you have to continue, exactly the way it was in the school
yeah.
year, but holding on to some structure is a great idea.
Okay. Well, I crossed one out, but on that note, what about with road trips? Should we keep like the same meal times and try to get the same bed times? As you stick to that, or can you like?
I think that because I think what defines the road trip is you've already got enough novelty. You've already got the like, hey, snug bug blue, punch, you're playing games that look like you're already exposing a lot of things that are new. Where your destination is going is going to offer a lot of like novelty to it. But in terms of like the patterns and stuff, it's just kind of good. In fact, I would say this. I would even say that when you actually add a little structure into a vacation and family time, what's really cool is because then you're associating the memories of the trip that are really powerful with something that is like cohesive and healthy, and we're eating together. Like you sort of want to look at it as an opportunity to connect, because this is actually a big deal. Is like families start to get pulled together. They're not eating at the same time. Everybody's on the go. In a vacation setting, it's a relaxed time.
Mm-hmm.
And you're already like kind of forced into eating together. So try to make it, hey, we're going to have lunch at this time, and we're going to go to this place. And so have a bit of structure on your vacation, because you got enough, new stuff to talk about and fun
That's
stuff.
so
I don't
true.
think that's not going to ruin a vacation whatsoever.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good, good.
Bedtimes. I mean, try to keep it, I'd say keep it pretty
Keep it
close.
decent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just going to try to keep catching up on
Well, I
sleep.
think
You
you
don't
just
want to
set
do that.
yourself up. You have to kind of think of like what you're setting up, like how far down the path you want to go before then you have to kind of go back. It's like,
Yeah,
be
that's true.
mindful of when,
Yeah. Thank you.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe that leads in. You just said something important about the eating, because we've talked about this in past episodes of eating together, but it does come up. Does my child have to eat with the family at every meal, even if not hungry? And if they doesn't eat what's offered, do they just go hungry? I think you covered that once before, but
Well, this is a great question. It's important. A lot of there's a lot of nuance to this, because if a particular parent asked me this, I would have a ton of questions for them. I would want to
okay.
know, like, well, how regular are we talking? Is this happening? Is this like an ongoing thing? And then we would start going down the rabbit hole of questions to kind of reverse engineer why we're in that situation. A child shouldn't go hungry.
Yeah.
It's because your question was basically if they don't want to eat something that's offered, right?
Right.
You want to, as a role again as the parent, is you're deciding what is served, and then they're kind of making choices from that. If
Okay.
there's a one child that has certain issues, they might have their own issues with textures, taste. That's okay, and they should never feel alienated by that.
Mm,
And if you're picking up on what they like, then what's important is to serve that as a communal food too. In other words, try to not make it where it's like, okay, here's crazy kid's food, because he can't, you
oh,
don't, there should
yeah.
never be any kind of production around it. Find out ways that, when you're exposing food at the table, and then without expectation of it all has to be eaten, and that they're going to like certain things, rather than letting it get to that point, try to think ahead and have those foods available, and expose them still to the other foods that they may not like at that point.
Gotcha.
It's going to be tricky. There's no perfect answer for this one either, but if they shouldn't go hungry, and they shouldn't be punished for not trying something or eat it because I said so. What are you really accomplishing by that?
It's like
They need to
authoritative.
know
Yeah.
that their tastes matter, and this also goes into the whole idea of pedestaling and, food is a reward and different things like that.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I remember you talking about that, and that actually is another question.
oh,
Are food
okay.
rewards ever a good idea? And you're like,
Oh,
nope.
okay. Are they
That
ever
was
a
in the
good
S down
idea?
the. Uh-huh.
Should we take
It
that?
says, are food rewards ever a good idea? I'm assuming they're like, you'll get a treat
Food
if
is
you
a
do the.
reward. So this is where there's a bit of like contention out there, right? You're going to get
Yeah.
people that do what I do that say it's never ever a good idea to use food as a reward, right? And it's just never ever. And the thing is, when reality hits, food is rewarding. So the reason this question is complicated and hard is because it's inevitable you're going to be in a situation where there's celebratory things happening, and certain foods are there being
Mm-hmm.
associated with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
The way I feel about this subject is that food shouldn't be the only reward. There's a lot of ways to reward, you really want to ask yourself a couple things. How am I connecting with my child? Because part of a reward for a child is your acknowledgement, your appreciation, your acceptance. You're giving them that. That's rewarding to them. If you're not doing those things, if you're not checking in with that, think hard about that, right? Because you want to offer up a variety of ways to reward your child. And if you can offer up a variety of ways, then there's not one thing that they're going to go to. What ends up happening is if food is the reward, it's constantly like, do this, I'm going to get you that, finish that, eat the broccoli, and you'll get the cake. And now we're going to create an environment where that's going to turn into an emotional eater for sure. The thing is, like, from the beginning, right? Child cries, they're hungry, they get a reward. They get rewarded, right? Food is a natural, it makes us feel good. It's okay to see it as such. But as parents, we have to look at how are we actually rewarding them in other ways. And then we also have to ask ourselves, why would that food be seen as a reward? Because if we can walk that over to the pedestaling idea, right? So to review what that is, pedestaling is where you say, okay, if you finish your plate, then we can have dessert. You've actually framed it where now that dessert seems like this special prize. Whereas if we avoid pedestaling and we just build that into the meal, in other words, literally serve that all at the same time. There's going to be some German chocolate cake tonight. Rather than have that as the finale and the thing that you got to eat your healthy food to get to your, actually have that on the table at the same time, and don't talk about it. Don't make a production, because what will happen then, a lot of that kind of fixation just starts to go away. It's all seen as food. I'll give you an example. When I was in college, a friend of mine, she was from Spain, and she was so baffled at Americans and the way we were fixated on alcohol when we're 18, 19. We have to get somebody to buy for us. And then when we get to alcohol, we're binge drinking. It's a very American thing. In Spain, they grew up with wine at the table. There's no drinking age. I don't know if that's changed since the 30 years since we've been in college, but she basically said to me, she never saw the big deal about it because it wasn't framed that way. So to backtrack to this, what are we setting up in a child's life that we're making that seem like a reward, right? So, if it's finding a healthy swap for like a healthier cookie, that's fine. But then have those healthier cookies around with the other foods. And do you see that exposure of, you're kind of baking that in with no commentary, no special long, monologue about it.
Yeah.
That's what's important, that they see this is sort of like not something to fetishize and fantasize about. And again, reward them in different ways. Hey, you're saving up for a video game, great effort on, cleaning the house this week. That was awesome. I'm gonna put $5 into your account for saving up for that game, or what I mean. That's all fine.
That's true. Yeah. That's a good one.
But with food as a reward, occasionally, like, we're gonna celebrate. We won the baseball game. Everybody, we're gonna go.
Yeah.
We're gonna go. There's a pizza party. It's gonna happen. Like,
I know we have one of those today.
To me, to be like, so like, it can never be. You can never have food. Really? What's important, though, is don't make it the only reward. Your time, your attention, your appreciation, your acknowledgement are other ways children love to be rewarded. And it might be like little coupons that you clip out and put them in the box and then hand them every once in a while. It's like, here, you got like a one night where you don't have to do homework, watch TV.
Yeah, that's so cute.
Whatever that might be, that there's different ways. And if you mix that up, then they're never going to attach food as being the thing that they're always going to go to when they want reward.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
But I hope
I love that. That's beautiful. I have to do a really quick shout out to Jaden. I don't know if by chance you watch this. My little friend Jaden, I think she's 20 now, 19 or 20, but she's worked in the daycare system. And she called me last week and she said it's so disheartening because it's almost like the reward, but where she works is, there's always a cupcake treat or a treat, but it's always the processed store-bought thing. And she tries to implement a different choice and she doesn't feel heard. So I'm like, just keep trying
Yeah.
or find a new place. But I love that she brought that up, because that as well is like a reward at the classroom, but it's always, let's celebrate the birthday, but it's got to be like the craziest, most hardcore treat that everyone cracks out on. And you're like, but again, you don't know what families come from where. And
you don't. And this is what I mean, is that on paper, all this looks great until you get out into the world and you go, so, it starts at home with the personal connection and love and healthy exposures and low pressure environments that I love to create. And these things take time. This isn't a quick solution. Well, I'm coming into situations sometimes where we've already set up years and years and years of certain habits. It's not going to be undone overnight. The earlier you start with these sort of things, the better. The exposure, the taking away the pedestaling idea, eliminate the idea of you need to finish your plate, like all those things. There's good, better, best situations with all this, but I'm very much about how do you actually set your child up for the real world. But yeah, you don't want to use like food as the sole reward. That is definitely dangerous. Yeah. But I think it's also unrealistic to think it's never going to be tied in some way in a child's life, situation. Whether it's going to be you or some other parent doing it. And if you wind things up too tight on your end, it's going to feel
they're like, I gotta try this.
Like Fantasyland when they get over to their friend's house. They're like, oh my God, you get to, so you got to find.
Yeah, that brought up a good one. And it kind of has to do with one of mine. Did I write that here? What can we say to our child? What can we say to check in with our child that they're making good decisions? Like, how can we trust them? They'll know what to say when they're offered. Like I thought this with my son. He was at a birthday party not long ago, and the kid was young, like turning 9 or 10, and they're offering Coca-Cola and stuff. And I was like, but Huck knew what to do. He's like, no, thanks. I'm not offering that. Like he wasn't tempted because it's not an option, but I trusted on him. But my friends are like, well, how did he know what to say? I guess that starts at home, right? Am I answering myself?
Well, it does start at home, but this is a good point. What the kind of thing that you sort of want to use is like because you're leading by example with your own language. So what we want to do is, what we could consider to do, we don't like, so in your, we don't have that, I don't eat that, or we don't, but not can't. There's a difference between that and can't. So we're trying to avoid things like can't. You can't have that. Because if you say can't to them, they're going to use that in their languaging, and that's going to create a problem because I can't have that. Well, that's also subconsciously going to make them want it eventually, because can't is restrictive. Don't is actually a place of power.
Yeah, I see that. When you said that, I didn't realize. Yeah,
I don't drink Coke, but no, thank you. So this is the other thing about this is direct, clear language, like no, thank you, and then thank you. The more you say no, thank you, and that becomes part of the vocabulary in the house, they'll pick that up because they're learning from you. If it starts to be this big thing about, I can't do that because that's bad for me, and my mom said that, that's got glyphosate in it. Like
that's what I've seen kids do that.
Like, oh boy,
I have to tell you this really quick. Years ago, well, maybe 5, I had a Pokemon birthday, and we had one of those, a Pokeball made, and it was half, and it was red fondant. And the only video I have of my son's birthday is bringing out the cake, so proud. He was so excited. He's like, this is the coolest cake ever. And all you hear in the background is a granola mom like, you better not eat that so-and-so. There's red dye number there. And like, that's on my video. The whole video is her bitching about my cake. And I'm like, it was just a cake. Just peel it off. I'm like, oh. But anyway, sorry. But then her child is like, I don't know what to do. I don't know. Where's my kid? I'm like, just enjoy it, and then we'll move on.
Yeah. Just kind of checking in along the way. And again, that's another one where how are you going to perfectly trust they're going to do
Yeah.
what you have to do is you empower them at home with making decisions, and what you're doing is, you're reinforcing the idea that they do have a say, right? However, you are choosing those options, right? It gets harder when they're in another environment at a party where those options were not. Sometimes it's good if this is a possibility, to communicate ahead of time with the parent that's in the party and saying,
Right.
and
Do you have other
it could be
options?
simply like, what are the options at the party? And,
Yeah, she never
so
did that.
because, but doing that is another step to this, because then you can kind of get out in front of it, and that
Yeah.
information can be helpful, because sometimes the parent that's throwing the party might not realize that's a important matter to you.
Well, I
So
just
you
want to
can
let you
give
know,
them a heads up.
I always give options. I'm craft service. So
Yeah.
I was like, you ruined my video, and there was his special cake over there. But not just for him either, for anybody's.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And I mean, in all of these things, it's like, look, with the red dye and the yellow this and nobody knows more about the problems with that than I do. But I also know that the devil is in the dose. I also know that, we're not going to ruin the child's life when there's a party and some red dye number 5. It's just simply not going to throw anything off course. In fact, I think making the big production out of it long term, it might bite somebody in the butt. I think that this is kind of the thing I'm getting at, is that these environments need to be low pressure. Kids need to not be dealing with all this heady stuff. They just is not.
That was the perfect sound bit. There's the reel.
For little ones, this is just not stuff that they should have to think about.
Yes. It's the pressure and the anxiety that's
right.
That's
so that's worse than any red dye you could put in their body. Anxiety, pressure, planting those kind of seeds, that's far worse than any kind of processed food. And believe me, I'm the most outspoken about processed food of anybody you'll meet, but you gotta kind of pick your battles there.
Pick your battles.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there you go. Let's move on to to a double question. Is fasting okay for kids, and is a detox okay for kids? And how adults, like I myself, I've been doing liver flushes or parasite cleanses.
Okay, let's talk about fasting. Fasting, I wouldn't recommend for children. Okay. Now there's different.
It naturally happens when you're sick, right? Fasting sometimes you're like, I don't want anything.
If they just aren't, so let's get into that. Yeah, like sometimes they just might not want to eat, and that can be a very normal situation. Obviously, that carries on for too long. We gotta start figuring a way what's going on there. But generally speaking, there's nature does that. Like, it might eliminate their appetite for a couple days, even maybe 3 days, right? So the process of fasting itself, it's not that it's extremely dangerous or whatever, but trying to introduce the concept of fasting to a kid or imposing a fast, I don't see any reason why that would ever be needed. Now, fasting in general, because when we talk about fasting these days, there's all these different subcategories. There's intermittent fasting, time restricted eating, and these things. I mean, let's talk about that. That has to do with the eating window, which I am a fan of establishing a good eating window for your child. That's different than getting them on a fast or something. But what you are doing is you're saying from this time to this time, this is when we eat. And after that, we're not, we don't have food, because, their body has to have that extended amount of time of fasting. Your breakfast is literally break fast. So we want at least 12, probably 13 or 14 hours even of just natural fasting time. But that's different. That's something that you literally never have to even bring up to your kid. You're just doing that. You're having a good dinner time. You're not eating.
Good sleep.
Not eating. Well, yeah, you're not feeding them real close to bed, something heavy that might interrupt their sleep pattern or whatever. But sometimes a good old warm glass of milk at night. There might be those situations, but yeah, I'm not a fan or a believer in the need to fast, have a kid fasting. I think that's more of an adult thing, because there's a lot of rules to it, a lot of things complicated. You could definitely get in a kid's head way too much and create like a very bad disordered eating pattern if you're trying to get a kid into like this idea of fasting. So
there you
that's
go.
different. That's a different thing than saying that will they be okay if they're just going without food for, I mean, that's going to be okay. They might be sick. They might not be able to eat. Sure. And then the second part was
detoxing.
This detox thing. So the body is naturally equipped to detoxify itself. Okay. And children's, detox pathways are typically amazing.
Because they're fresh, right? Like
fresh, that all their eliminative systems usually are working great. Now, there might be issues where they've literally had a toxic exposure. That's a true like situation, like they've been exposed. There's some mold. We've discovered this in the home, lead or different things. Then you kind of start to look into what you might need to do as a detox protocol. But again, it's very different. Adults, you got some miles on the odometer. You've been, but you haven't been eating well for quite some time. You might want to consider, doing a detox program. But that's another thing that really kids, they don't really need to be exposed to this idea. And it should really be case to case, depending on if there's actually a toxicity and we've identified. But you don't need to be doing these. I don't see any need to be doing like regular detox things with the
kid. Yeah. I always do it heavy metals. I'll do that randomly, like
metals exposures.
If I notice something, or I have done a parasite cleanse on them last year.
Yeah. So
not the heavy hardcore one, but
there are certain things like that you can use with food that just naturally does this, right? So you can do it with food. So something like cilantro detoxifies metals, right? Yeah. So if they like cilantro, and some kids might hate cilantro, by the way. Some people talks in terms of genetics. There are some people that carry a gene where cilantro will taste like soap to them, and they will never like cilantro, and there's nothing you're ever going to do to get them to like it. But garlic and these kind of things and different, medicinal herbs that you can use in a culinary way, get them exposed to those. Those actually help.
Yeah.
And like you kind of want to do it through foods, I think.
That makes
not so
more
much
sense.
like here, take where they're like, okay, why is mom like feeding me?
Yeah, why am I getting dosed?
There might, again, there might be a need for that. It depends, but as a general answer to that question, that shouldn't be a thing that you should be overly concerned with.
Awesome, I like that.
Yeah. Get them moving and sweating, because that's a detox pathway.
You just hit it. Because I was going to go into the teens, but I do want to do this for all ages. My child refuses any and all sports, not into dancing, hiking, biking, anything, just quiet introvert activities. Yeah. How can I get them to sweat and to move the energy?
You're not going to get them to.
Oh, good answer.
But no,
just
but like
salt,
so.
No, but you're
first of all, eliminate the idea that that's your thing that you need to be.
You need to do. Okay.
On. First, start with that. Meet them where they're at. They're like,
that's right.
They are going to be what they're going to be, right? And it's the same thing as exposure. Like, a kid doesn't want to eat this. What do I do? Just expose it, and they have every right to engage or not. They have every right. That is the answer. That's not a great sounding thing like, oh, you don't have like a secret hack to get. No, you can. There are levels to it. Like, there's going to be some opportunities, like, if you're on a summer vacation and it's like there's a walking trail, or you're going, there might be museums, and then you kind of get some outdoor time, and then like there's going to be that. And again, pressuring a child to play a sport or to do something, because yes, that's all going to be good for them, but they just might not be wired up that way. But you'd be surprised that when you stop bothering them about it and stop trying to force anything, it's amazing to me how these types of children, they're introverted, they might be bookish, they'll start. I've got many examples of kids that I've worked with in my experience where this is where we started, what you're explaining. And then a year later, they found a sport, they found something that they like, but they might not. That's the answer. They just might not. All you can do is you lead by example and create a low pressure environment. I keep saying that, but nothing's ever going to come from this idea that you've made them now get into a sport. Now that doesn't mean you sit back passively and you don't try, but they just might simply not be ready, and there might be some underlying reasons. And that's the other thing. Like maybe there's some kind of psychological component. And again, that would be case to case. We could find that out. Then maybe once they start getting a little more connected, maybe you might, as a parent, there's a few things you could do to connect a little more. Maybe there's something going on at school you don't know about that. Once you discover that and that's addressed, all of a sudden, this other thing is suddenly more comfortable for them. It might not be on the surface that what they might be saying, I just don't want to. Because I had something happen to me when I was young where I overheard someone in my family saying bad things about my piano playing. And then I didn't want to make a scene about it. So I just told my dad, I don't want to play piano anymore. And he was so confused. He didn't know that the reason I felt that way is because I overheard someone saying how bad I was at piano and it made me cry and it hurt my feelings, but I couldn't, right? Aww. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Someone might have said something. They might have been on the playground. A kid teased them and that was it. And they don't want to do that because somebody hurt them and now they're embarrassed and they might not be telling you, right? So there's a little, just open your mind to the idea that there might be more than meets the eye to that, and avoid lastly, avoid the label of like, well, she's this or he's this. It's like, we don't know yet, but we do know that right now they're not ready. That's a true statement, but that's different than labeling them. They'll never be ready. They're just of this. Labels are tough. They'll stick.
Yeah, they are.
Right. So it's one thing to identify the behavior or observe their likes or dislikes, but to label them as a this from that, and then they overhear that, then now they're like, oh, they're that person.
That's so good. Thank you always for keeping it real, Lawrence. Seriously.
Yeah.
That was good. And plus we have to lead by example. Can't be like, I know I've done it to my kids. Guys, get out and sweat. And it's really me that has to.
You got to sweat, right?
While I sit back and scroll through my social media. Go do something.
And you usually, I mean, there'll be times that there'll be opportunities usually with that. I mean, humans are typically meant to move. They just need to be patient, like everything else. Don't think that you're a bad parent if they're not doing the things that all the other kids are doing at the time they're doing them. They're on their own thing. They're on their own journey, and you never know what's going on behind closed doors. So your thing is to be this open door of communication for them that they feel safe with, so that some of these things can surface, and then you can actually tackle those as needed, and you get those out of the way. And then all of a sudden, oh my God, they're dancing. Oh, they're playing. They want to play soccer or whatever, right?
It leads right into that. I think this kind of leads into another question right there. And what you said is communication and making sure you have the connection. Because how can I get my teen to stay tuned into their body? Like pay attention to what's going on in their body, I guess. That's the connection.
A lot of that, ideally, hopefully, because it's trickier by the time they're a teen, to begin. But like, when a child as they're growing up, right? So their ability, like, are you full? Would you like more? When you're asking them questions and you're getting to vocalize if they want more, are they full? And that's already you're kind of like conditioning them to be comfortable eaters and being in tune, as far as that goes. Repeat the exact question. Like how can
I get my teen to stay tuned into their body? But you kind of just said there.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, it's connecting again, being connected. It's always going to come to that, so that, if that conversation comes up, ideally it shouldn't be like during a meal or something. It should just be like in a comfortable conversation we're just having about life in general, and then maybe the subject of their body gets brought up, and that requires a little more specific information case to case.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Connection.
the more that the more you stay connected with how they're feeling, the more they're asked to of how they're feeling, then they'll know that for themselves typically, right? Because they have a practice of that question actually being a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, are you full? Are you hungry?
Yeah.
Okay, you've had enough. Okay, that's good. And then not questioning. Oh, you're still hungry? That's good. Don't be. You're still hungry? Really? I just gave you, this kind of thing. It's like, yeah, they're still hungry. Like you guys. I mean, this is so common.
I have to work on that. Yeah.
Why are they still eating? It's like, if they're hungry, they're hungry. And I talk about this all the time. Hunger always wins. You don't tell somebody that. It's like telling someone, don't be sad. Don't be hungry. Like, what?
I love that episode, by the way. We have an episode, Hunger Always Wins. That's a good one.
Because it's true. So, like, look, figure it out. And then we get it. Then now you've got to go, it's like, well, what did you feed them? You might have thought it was a lot of food, but what was going on in that food? Was there enough protein? Was there enough fiber? Are they hydrated? Are they stressed out? Did they not sleep last night? There's a lot of reasons they might be hungrier than what you would like them to be. There are actual problems that need to be medically addressed with that, right? So I'm not discounting that. They're very rare where there's no satiety signal and the poor child can never feel full. Then they got to go get the doctor and get checked. But that's pretty rare. But if it's just they've got a big appetite, I mean, if you're 11 or 12 years old and you're growing, you're gonna be hungry. So you should never. So the key with that is about being in tune. It's you need to allow them to have that experience and not shut that down, because if you shut that down, they're going to probably internalize that and shut that down in a way and not really give a damn about, because you didn't give any damn about their hunger, their stress levels or any of that. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because you could just say was it a tough day at school today, and not have to bring that up, but for your own information, ask it separate. Was it a tough day at school? How was your sleep last night? And then you just take that information. Oh, okay. Yeah, they didn't sleep well. That might be why, their hunger is what it is today. So, non-judgmental. It's always the way.
I love that. Non-judgmental.
It's always the way.
And connection.
Yeah.
Here's more teen. With teen hormones, what should we keep in the cabinets to keep them balanced? Is there anything special? I know you hit that in the very beginning.
No, nothing special with that. I mean, again, this hormone thing, that's all. This is diet stuff, healthy diet.
It's all food.
Omega fats are kind of critical for hormones. It's not you don't need a handful of supplements in this situation. And hormones a very general term. And when we think of teens and hormones, I think we're all thinking the kind of but there's a lot of hormones. So that that's kind of a large question, but in general, no, there's nothing special that you need. Just good nutrition, sleep patterns and stuff that's more important than any kind of supplement. Good circadian patterns when it comes to hormones. The body really likes to have a good rhythm. Daytime, nighttime rhythms matter a lot across the board with our hormones. We know getting up in the morning, encouraging sunlight in the morning, however you can. If we're talking about what's going to influence hormones, that's it.
I love that.
Morning sun exposure, midday exposure if they can, and then right before dusk, a family walk right before sun goes down is a great way to kind of keep everything moving along. But no, supplements and stuff like that for that age for hormones, not really a thing.
Cool. Look at you. Thank you for this. I have actually one more here, kind of getting in a little later. Kids going off to college. Any good things to say to protect their health? Reminders to stay smart in their head and make good choices? I guess they're looking again for magic phrases. Yeah. But I
love you.
You've developed that. You've developed that connection already.
I think by that point, it's that again, I would want to know
let them go.
What the situation is up to that point, because Here we're talking about they're about to go. Let's just say the situation is they're going to be going off to school, right? There's a little more anxiety on the parent side.
Like
I know for
dorms
that.
and stuff. Yeah.
Dorms and things. It's like, you know, I think that a lot of the tutelage needed to occur before this happened. But as far as what any parent should say to their child is, this is an important one. If you need anything, if you're ever in a situation, I will never judge you. I will always be here for you.
Mm.
I want you to have fun. I want you to enjoy college. You know, like that if they feel like, look, your safety and if you just your safety and your health is everything. And whatever you ever need, if you're in an uncomfortable situation, whatever, know that you can call me and find some like-minded people around you that you feel safe around. And I love you. And that's kind of what you do is like, you know, because they're going to be in an environment, again, life's going to come up. There's going to be parties, going to be situations. But all that, you know, the street smart stuff, all that stuff, that's tricky because that sort of is cultivated, you know, and every family situation is different with that. I think at an early age, I'm a big believer in allowing children to push some boundaries and try some things that, you know, climb the tree. You know, it's a funny situation, right? We want our child to be safe, but if you completely shelter them,
oh yeah, they won't be safe.
they're not safe, right? That's the problem, right, with that. And so encourage, like, because there's a way to safely encourage effort, right, as they're getting older. I mean, you don't want to be foolish, but you know, the helicopter parenting and all this can backfire dramatically. I know, when they're in college, they have that what's called learned helplessness. You know, they've just essentially learned to be helpless.
Yeah.
And it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
You do your job as a prepare for the world. And if we all look back on our own journey, the things that were hard, the times that we scraped our knees and bumped ourselves, metaphorically speaking, you know, were the things that gave us the gift and the character.
Yes.
It's hard to sit back as a parent and watching your child have to like learn a hard lesson. But safety is a real thing. And I think, you know, having a discussion about that of like, you know where you're at, know your surroundings, situational awareness. I would recommend parents to like learn a little bit about situational awareness, a little bit too deep of a topic for right now, but situational awareness, have that conversation sooner than later.
Situational
for
awareness.
Yourself and for your children. Yeah. Situational awareness, like learning how to observe a room, how to pay attention to body language, know where the exits are.
Yeah.
Play out scenarios. It's a great thing. These are actually great things. Like if you were in a situation, what would you do?
Ooh,
you know, my mom in the 70s was at Woodfield Mall.
Yeah.
Heidi.
Yeah.
Came up to her car, got in her car. There was a guy in the back seat.
Oh gosh, the horror story.
He crawled over. Right. I'm saying this because maybe this might help somebody out there.
Yeah.
He crawled over the seat and he told my mom, I have a gun and you're going to go where I want. Just start driving. Now, my mom's backstory, there was a famous case in Chicago, Schuessler boys. This was, you know, in the 50s. Actually, in the 50s. Those were her two best friends, and they were murdered. And they were brought to a forest preserve.
Oh.
So my mom flashed back to that. Now this is serious. All of a sudden, our discussion took.
I know we're good.
But there's an example of situational awareness. As my mom was in the car with driving, you know, she thought through this and thought, he's going to take me. Nothing good is going to come of this. So she stopped the car in traffic. And she said, whatever you're going to do to me, you can do it right now because I'm not going to go where you want. And he got out. Because She had to weigh it.
Yeah.
You
Give me
got
now or there.
cars around, you're in traffic, it was daytime.
Yeah. Good for
She had
her.
to weigh it because she knew. Now that's not an easy decision to make, but that was the right call because it was a for sure bad deal going to where he wanted. It's one example of many of like scenarios, and there's a lot of this information
Wow.
online about situation, what to do this in these situations. If you incorporate situational awareness conversations and role playing in scenarios and talk these things out, it's a really good thing as far as getting them ready, because it will
Yeah.
come in handy.
Yeah.
You know, when I walk into a place, I'm scanning the room. I'm looking for, I do
Yeah.
this. I do this
Yeah.
myself. I've been in
Yeah.
situations where it's been, okay, if you have a bad feeling, if you're being like, one more example. I was walking home one night and it was late, and my car was in the shop or something. So I was like walking home from a job, and I was going down my street and it was dark, and I felt like I was being followed. And a couple things, and some people already know this, it might seem obvious, but others it might not. Take the phone, put it up like you're on a call. All of a sudden now you're less of a,
Yeah.
a mark. And then I just started walking up a driveway as if it was my house.
I've done that. Yeah. Just like,
And then they just kept, and then they literally just drove off. But,
yeah.
you know, that kind of thing is what I'm saying is like,
Be aware of your
if it's
surroundings.
feeling a little weird, knowing some of these techniques and things to do,
Yeah.
because as powerful as self-defense is, the best component of self-defense is avoiding the situation and being able to get out of it. All the Krav Maga, all that's fine, but the
But don't get it in the first place.
99% of good
Yeah.
self-defense is learning to never even be in that situation.
Yes.
Especially if you're undersized, if you're a small person. Heidi, I'm 6'3", 200 pounds. Someone my size, I don't care what can overpower, so avoiding and getting away and getting out, and situational awareness. I know this is a long thing, but I feel important that because we brought this up
It's
about
very
college.
important.
We got things now, people fentanyl and putting things in drinks, and those
and they
are
tune out.
conversations you have to have. Yeah.
People are tuned out. They have their phones on, their headphones on. They're not aware of their surroundings.
Yeah. I mean, think about this. I mean, literally, like our attention is focused in one. We're not used to scanning horizons and these things. These are important things. This is good stuff. Actually, I'm glad you brought this up because it's got me thinking about all this other stuff about child safety.
Yeah.
Right. Forget college, right? That's one discussion, but child safety.
But even the kiddos, because I've been working with them of the energy, like pay attention to how your body's responding, because it will sense if something's off, or pay attention if don't go that way, those little intuition. But then we just recently did a situational awareness because we've had a bear spotted in the neighborhood. So we did a walk and practiced how to make your clothes look bigger in case you come across one. Like, what should we do if you see the bobcat or the bear? What do you do for each of those?
Coyotes,
so we did do something like that.
Right? We got, I mean, got all those things. Very important.
Yeah.
I mean, if this little section of our talk, if it was if it helped anybody, totally worth it, right? I mean,
of course.
Totally worth it. I think it's
thank
important.
you, Lawrence. That was fabulous. Look at that. We still hit
look at that. We're always we got this.
I'm so grateful to you. And folks, please let us know how this resonates with you. It would be really fun to do a live Q&A with people giving their own in-time questions. Would be fun. But I really appreciate you bouncing around with me. And I always learn something new with you. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. This has been so much fun doing all these shows with you, Heidi.
I love it. It's so fun. And before I get to Kids Get Healthy, let's not forget good old Rainbow Chefs Academy.
Shout out.
Yes, just such a beautiful organization. I see them blooming and growing even more on social media too, which is really cool. But it was such an honor to work with you that one day. And if any summer gigs come up, let me know.
There's a lot of fun stuff in the works right now with Rainbow Chefs Academy.
Cool.
We've got a crazy talented team together right now that we will be a national force to reckon with sooner than later. And we're doing a lot of good things. So thank you for shouting out. Yeah,
Oh
Rainbow
my
Chefs
gosh, of
Academy. You
course.
find them on social media, and then go to the website rainbowchefsacademy.com. And
there you go. And then here's Mr. Lawrence at kidsgethealthy.com. You could reach him at lawrence@kidsgethealthy.com. And we're going to close it out with your beautiful trailer as well. So
cool.
Please check out our playlists on Rumble, our Kids Get Healthy series, on YouTube, HeidiPopp from Los Angeles, Kids Get Healthy. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you. Interact with us on social media. Lawrence is there. I'm there. I may not look it sometimes, but I'm there.
Heidi, once again, this was awesome, and we'll do it again soon.
Yes, we will do it again soon. Thanks so much, everybody, again for tuning in, and we look forward to catching you on the next one. Cheers.